Order online at picassospizza.net.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this Trainwreck Sports Podcast, where we are here to pay the bills, presented by our sponsor, as always, picassospizza.net. And I am Jake Majka, joined, as always, by my co-hosts, Mike Bundt and Carson Hayek, as it is a Tuesday, August 19th. Gentlemen, we got a loaded show today for the middle of August. There's a lot going on. There was a debacle that happened over the weekend that fans, honestly, that got the juices fired up, I think, guys, for the discourse today. I think everybody's been on edge since Sunday night, and Tuesday morning brought it in. Let's get to the big news of the day, though, first. The big news of the day, Gabe Davis, a name maybe you guys haven't thought about in a while, maybe you haven't thought about, whatever, coming in for a visit Wednesday afternoon to the Buffalo Bills. He was in Pittsburgh today, coming in tomorrow. And there's been a lot of discourse around this. I think we all have a lot of thoughts on Gabe and just the wide receiver room as a whole. I'll start with you, Mike. First of all, how are you doing tonight? And second of all, what was your first reaction to seeing the news this morning of Gabe Davis visiting the Buffalo Bills?
I'm doing great. Always excited to talk football. Can't wait to break down everything from the Chicago game on Sunday night, as we definitely want to go in depth about a game featuring a bunch of backups versus starters in the middle of August. That means absolutely nothing. But talking about Gabe Davis and the Bills, I find it really interesting. Not just because I said going back 2 months ago that this was a possibility and that I thought the Bills might pursue it, but because think about it. The Bills receiver room right now is not looking that good behind Keon Coleman and Josh Palmer. At 4, 5, 6, a lot of questions. If you assume that Elijah Moore is your number 4, well, he has not done well in camp, and he has 1 catch in the preseason, 2 drops, more drops than catches, and it's not like he hasn't played. So Elijah Moore, he's been pretty bad. Curtis Samuel, he can't even see the field. Tyrell Shavers, he's 26 years old, entering his 3rd NFL season, and he has 1 career catch, 69 yards for a touchdown. Very nice. But that actually brings me up to another funny thing. Do you know how old Gabe Davis is?
I believe he's 26 years old.
How old is Tyrell Shavers?
Same age.
I believe he's also 26.
Wait, so you're telling me we're supposed to feel optimistic about Tyrell Shavers because he's entering his 3rd year and he has all this untapped potential. Yet Gabe Davis is entering his, 6th year in the NFL? And already has 180 plus catches for around 3,000 yards and averaged 7 touchdowns a season in his first 4 years in Buffalo. So, this is how we frame things. We look at Shavers as up and coming. We look at Davis as he's on the way down. They're the same age. Literally. That has to put things in context a little bit. And then another thing that needs to keep things in context is, what is the role? See, when people think about Gabe Davis, they think about how the Bills try to make him wide receiver number 2 behind Stephon Diggs and how that experiment didn't go well. They look at it as he was disappointing. He didn't live up to the expectations. He didn't deserve a big contract. Well, guys, he already got paid by Jacksonville for this season. He's not going anywhere for much money. He's signing for a minimal type contract. And on top of that, it's August 19th. We're 19 days away from the start of the regular season. His options right now look like Pittsburgh and Buffalo. He's already circled back with Pittsburgh, which means they didn't sign him the first time. And it doesn't appear that he has a deal after today. And then he's going back to his former team for a visit, a team that he would have continuity with, familiarity with the offensive coordinator and the quarterback. Do you know what this strikes me? This strikes me as a guy that has waited until late August into the preseason, waiting for an opportunity, seeing if there's injuries, seeing if a team budges, will give him a role. You know what I'm telling you? He hasn't gotten the role that he wants. He's not going to get any money, so this ain't about money. So at this point, if the Bills are talking to him and he's engaging with the Bills, knowing what they have ahead of him, it's very likely this is for wide receiver 5 or maybe even a practice squad addition at this point. And if he's making it on the practice squad, you literally have nothing to lose in that scenario. That's just an extra NFL caliber player on your practice squad. Nothing to lose there. The Bills did it with Kareem Jackson last year at safety, and I didn't hear Bills fans complaining about having a 35-year-old safety in a practice squad who ended up playing in games when there was injuries to the safeties. You've had other guys come in as veterans. I'm trying to think about the corner from Carolina who played the 1 year with the Bills, and then came in. Josh Norman was a practice squad stash. You've had Cole Beasley come back as a practice squad stash. You've had John Brown. You had the linebacker from the Texans. These practice squads are bigger now. Veterans are willing to come to teams and be on the practice squad, knowing they're an injury away from being activated to the roster. So I don't think that's the end of the world. And if he did come and is wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, and fills some type of Mac Hollins role on a minimal deal, like, what's the big deal there? There is no big deal. And I'll wrap it up here because I know I'm going on and on and on. Everybody's saying they're afraid of him taking Tyrell Shaver's job or Elijah Moore or Curtis Samuel. This is my response to that. Tyrell Shavers is making the team over Gabe Davis. This is his 3rd year. They've invested in him. He's had a great camp. He's had a good preseason, and he can play special teams. Tyrell Shavers is not at risk due to Gabe Davis. Number 2, if Elijah Moore or Curtis Samuel got cut or the Bills move on from them as a result of Gabe Davis, that tells you how low or how little the Bills think about those 2 receivers and what they've done to this point in time. That would be an indicator that they think that Elijah Moore has been very bad during the summer, which he has been. And I went to 7 practices. I've watched the preseason games. I know a lot of Bills fans that haven't watched any practices are enamored with him. But you watch him in practice, he is not impressed. There's a reason why Sean McDermott said we have 3 receivers we feel comfortable with right now. And then after that, we got to see more. And Curtis Samuel just doesn't show up to practice. Like, he just doesn't, do anything. And not all his fault. I mean, he doesn't eat before practice. So how can he ever have the right nutrition to perform when it matters or stay healthy? So long story short, it's not a big deal. If they add him, cool. If they don't, cool. It's not going to be a big deal.
Well, I mean, I think you touched on a lot of really good points, Mike. I'd start with this. If his name wasn't Gabe Davis and everybody sees his numbers from beforehand, I think it's a little bit different situation. He has had production in the past, right? He's a big-time playoff performer. Still has had one of the greatest wide receiver playoff performances of all time. Let's not put that past him. Let's throw a little respect where it's due for him. But ultimately, I think it comes down to the fact that you brought up. It's a super low-risk deal. You know what you're getting out of Gabe Davis. He's been in this offense before. He's a culture guy. He was a team captain at one point just a few years ago for this team. And ultimately, he has the respect from these guys, and he knows a little bit of the playbook. So, super low-risk deal. If he's practice squad, that's great. If he's wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6, he can perform when need be. He might be a healthy scratch type of guy. Like, he's not coming in to be the team's wide receiver 2. This whole offense is completely reshaped. It's a new era. Like we said, everybody eats 2.0 this year. So, to have a big responsibility on his plate, that's gone. It's clear other teams don't value him to the point that maybe Gabe's trying to wait out for where it comes to that more productive role that he's looking for, maybe a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. That's just not going to happen. The money's not there. Like Bundt said, it's August. Teams are close somewhat against the cap. They're trying to get that situated as the regular season approaches. But I have no problem with it if he comes back. I think ultimately it's a low-risk, high-reward deal that possibly could play off. I mean, he had 20 catches, 239 yards, and 2 tutties in 10 games last year with Jacksonville. He's definitely – his production's declined over the years, but he bet a little bit of injury coming off, I believe, a little bit of a knee, not surgery, but, a procedure on his knee. He should be good to go, and he should be fully healthy. So I have no problem if he ends up coming back here. If not a problem. But to bring up your point, if he somehow beats out Shavers or Elijah Moore or Samuel, I have no problem with that, because to me, it's like Shavers hasn't really proved anything when it comes to regular season football. He's been a preseason. He's been phenomenal in the preseason. I hope the guy makes the roster. Right now, he's my wide receiver 6. He's earned that. He's clearly the most trusted wide receiver out there. And it was shown against Chicago. But if it comes to that, we're not in this situation where, they're both 26 years old. They both are in similar spots right now, is just trying to make a roster. If Gabe beats him out like that's I have no problem with Gabe Davis being on the roster if they feel another wide receiver's not cutting it. We're in a win now situation. It's not, we invested into this guy, so you got to wait for him to reach his potential, and you can kick the can down the road on that. That can't happen. So if he beats him out outright, I have no problem with that. It's a low risk, high reward deal, and I guess I'll just kind of leave it at that. But I really feel if his name wasn't Gabe Davis, people would be a little bit more PR positive about this. But hey, people have seen what Gabe Davis is capable of, and the hands aren't there all the time. But hey, he's a guy who can come in, run block for you, get open in the passing game and the play action game too. So I'm all for it.
I think the biggest thing for me is beyond anything. Well, first of all, the bottom three of this group, whether you're talking about Shavers, Samuel, or Moore, we could talk at length about them, but none of them have grabbed that wide receiver 4 job or even pushed to be in that top 3 at all, as you guys have said, at all this summer. So is it the worst thing to bring in, even if you don't think Gabe's going to make the team, and I'm saying from a Brandon Beane perspective here and a Sean McDermott perspective, even if you don't think he's going to make the team, don't you think it's first of all, it's a guy that the locker room loves, the quarterback specifically loves, and a guy that it's not a guy who doesn't work hard. Like Gabe Davis, one of the things that was always talked about with him when he was in Buffalo was how hard he worked to get to where he was, his upbringing, everything else. It's a great story of Gabe Davis to kind of get to where he is. He puts the work in, he puts the hours in. To bring a guy in like that in this moment, even just for a visit, is sending a message specifically, I think, to Moore and Samuel. But that whole room is like, this is a guy that we trust. We know maybe he's not as talented. Maybe he doesn't fit as much as anything else. But it's a guy that all these guys love, and we would be more than happy to put him on this roster and kick you guys off. Like that is the tone that Sean McDermott has used since Sunday night, where Sunday night in the post-game press conference, he says, we're going to have to evaluate what we need going forward. When he says what we need going forward, antenna goes up like, oh, they're looking at this roster again. When he talked about it pretty openly with other positions today about competition needed at spots. We'll get into that later on. But this, to me, as you were saying, Carson, if it wasn't the name Gabe Davis and everything that comes with that, whatever that even means, everything that comes with Gabe Davis, what does that mean, everything that comes with Gabe Davis? Bills fans and national media put him on a pedestal because of his fantastic game and he ever should have been, and then got disappointed when he wasn't the player that they thought he was going to be. To me, Gabe Davis was always kind of perfectly in the role that he was going to be. He could flash, but he could not flash. The point for me is what this means to the room, that specifically that wide receiver room, but the locker room as a whole, to bring a guy like that in this moment is like, hey, no one is safe right now. Like the urgency needs to pick up here. And I feel like that's the move. That's the sign to the offense that the urgency needs to pick up, to the room that they're most concerned about. And then the comments McDermott made about the safety position showed the urgency for that side. Like, we know where their 2 pain points are that this team is really concerned about going into the year. So for me, as much as it is like, hey, if it's some kind of mental like warfare on the team to like try to motivate them or try to get something more out of Samuel or try to get something more out of Elijah Moore than what we've seen, or to try to get Shavers to not rest on his laurels at all and keep pushing for a spot, not feel safe, then by all means, this doesn't hurt at all. And if Gabe is good and earns a spot, who's gonna be mad about that? Like, if he goes out there for the next 3 weeks and outplays everybody, and we're getting reports from practice that are like, man, Josh and Gabe are looking good together today. Like, Gabe's looks like he's in great shape. He's making some great catches. He's working hard on, run plays, all this other stuff. Like, I'm not going to be mad about that, because none of these other guys have shown, or like Mike, you've seen, that you saw, or any of the other beat reporters have seen, to take this job by the horns and go with it into the season. So why not bring a guy to compete? Like, it's still preseason. We still got 3 weeks till this season, till the NFL season even starts. Go compete. Like, this is the Super Bowl we're talking about. We don't want. Why are we just accepting mediocrity for the back half of the wide receiver room? Because that's what it's been. Curtis Samuel, I don't even know if it's mediocrity. It's literally just not being on the field, as we mentioned. So it's low risk, high reward for me, in my opinion. Like, and you make those moves when you can.
Yeah, I don't get how anybody could be against it when you're going to pay him next to nothing. And it just comes down to fans got disappointed by him the first time because he didn't reach their unrealistic expectations, and now they hold it against him. Gabe Davis has done nothing as a person to deserve any of the hatred that he's getting from Bills fans right now. It's kind of embarrassing to me how many Bills fans are anti Gabe Davis, a guy that has been part of 4 great Bills squads that had a lot of success, won division titles, and really took the franchise to the next level. One of the best playoff games in Bills history. And yes, was I part of the hyping him up and thinking he was going to be something special? Yeah, I thought he was going to turn into a 1,000-yard receiver with Josh Allen in the Bills offense. And he maxed out at 830 yards. But Bills fans act like the guy sucked. In 4 years in Buffalo, 2 of which he was coming – basically the first 2 years in the league, he's coming out of the draft in the 4th round, and he's a number 3, number 4 receiver. He averaged 41 catches for 682 yards and 7 touchdowns a year. And Bills fans act like that sucks. Look at the Bills receivers last year. Who last year put up numbers? We act like Keon Coleman's about to be this great thing, and Keon Coleman had 29 catches for 570 yards last year. It's we don't know how to keep anything in perspective in Buffalo when it comes to receivers. We hype them up at the first little sign of anything, and then when they don't live up to it, we call them a bum. And it's annoying to me because Gabe Davis was a 4th-round pick who outperformed his draft position and ends up turning into a good player, around 7 touchdowns a year. How is that bad for a 4th-round pick? And because he chose to follow the money and get a nice deal, which he rightfully earned, people act like, oh, he stinks as a wide receiver too. Here's the thing in hindsight. When I was at Cover One, were we maybe a little bit too high on him? Yes. But there was metrics that actually pointed out to Gabe Davis being good in his role. Everybody brings up the catch rate and how it was low. Gabe Davis was mostly used as an intermediate threat receiver, which is 15-plus yards down the field. Those are lower probability throws. You're not always going to be wide open. They are down the field more. They're harder to complete, and you get more boom or bust. That's why Gabe Davis had games where he would go off for 100-plus, and then he would have games where he did absolutely nothing. The Bills also like to value his blocking, and it was a role that they liked. Even Mac Hollins, they had a lot of similarities with what they were doing at times last year. Let me ask you this. Why did the Bills' passing game drastically decline last year? It's not just because they lost Stephon Diggs. They lost that intermediate threat last year. They didn't have anybody in that area. That's why Josh Palmer is on the team now. They're trying to get that intermediate spot back. So fans say, well, the Bills were great without Gabe Davis last year. They got better. They got better because they ran the ball. They didn't get better because the passing game got better. Last year was the worst their passing game has been during the Josh Allen era, since maybe 2019. The only area they got better with their passing attack last year was that Josh Allen was better with his decision-making, meaning he turned it over less because he played smarter, because they took the ball out of his hands more and relied on the running attack. While in the past, they let him force feed the ball to Diggs and Davis, and they didn't care as much about mistakes. The record after Davis, John, doesn't really matter to 13-4 because they went 13-3 twice with Davis. So they did that same record with him on the team. So you can't really be like, well, they did better without him. They did the same with him. And when it all comes down to it, is this move necessary? No, it's not necessary. They don't need to sign Gabe Davis. But if they add him, they're not really losing anything. So there's really no point to be emotional or mad about it because there's really nothing that they're sacrificing to add him to the team. And when you talk about the other receivers, there's this love affair with Elijah Moore right now that I just do not get. The guy has been on 3 teams. On the Jets, they let him go after 2 years as a second-round pick. In Cleveland, they let him go after 2 years, and he was the wide receiver 2 last year. He had over 60 catches last year and averaged 8.8 yards per catch as a wide receiver 2. That is an awful yards per catch for a receiver on any team, any offense across the NFL. He wasn't signed before the draft. The Bills were willing to not sign him if they found the right person in the draft. 31 other teams could have went after him and didn't. And then he signs for $5 million, which is Deontay Hardy type money. And yet Bills Mafia thinks that Elijah Moore is this special guy because he has quickness. There's metrics that say that Elijah Moore was one of the worst receivers in the entire NFL amongst 90 qualified people with the ball in his hands. He's skilled. He's talented. He has more drops this preseason than catches. He has one catch for about 5 yards. In training camp, he's dropped the ball. There's times when, in Bills fans, the first excuse was, oh, it's camp, it doesn't mean much. Let's see it in the preseason. Then it's preseason, doesn't do much. It's the quarterback's throwing to him. But you know what? I've seen him in camp with Josh Allen throwing to him. And I've seen Josh Allen prioritize Tyrell Shavers 100 times more in practices when they're both on the field and Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel are not there. So I'm hoping Elijah Moore does some stuff for the Bills. But this love affair with him does not line up to reality. And if you ask Jets fans, if you ask Browns fans about Elijah Moore, you know what none of them are doing? Saying that they miss him. So while Bills Mafia wants to act like, oh, he's going to be this great player with Josh Allen, the evidence does not add up. And Slick, you can say, I don't think there's much of a love affair. You got to pay attention to Twitter more, man. You got to pay way more attention to Twitter if you don't think there's a love affair, Slick. There is definitely a lot of Bills fans that are crazy about this guy. And then secondly, Curtis Samuel, we don't even know what he is. He doesn't play football. Has he been on the Bills the last year and a half? I don't know. I haven't seen him. I'm still trying to find it. It seems like I haven't seen him practice. Same with Cole Bishop. Is he on the Buffalo Bills? Because even during the preseason, I didn't see him. The only time I saw him was when people were running by him. That's same with DeMar Hamlin. So I'm not even saying this stuff to hate on the Bills, but it's when it comes down to it, we're talking about a number 4 at best receiver, most likely a number 5 or a practice squad receiver. It's not a big deal. It doesn't really matter. But I do think that we're coming to the realization, especially after the quote today from Sean McDermott, that when you're looking at the Bills offense this year, there's 3 receivers that are going to be heavily involved. There is one tight end that is expected to be a primary focus. And then there's all 3 running backs. I would not be putting much money on anyone not named Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Josh Palmer, Dalton Kincaid to have over 40 catches. James Cook might be the only other guy on the team that I could put money on for maybe getting over 40, depending on how they use him in the pass game. But if anybody thinks anybody outside of that top 3 receivers and Kincaid is going to light it up receiving-wise, they are not.
Well, just to add on, I want to bring up one of your points that you talked about when it comes to a receiver in Buffalo shows a little promise and then everybody hypes him up. That statement's true unless your name's Elijah Moore, where you just all of a sudden the fan base loves him, doesn't show anything, puts blame on everybody else besides the actual player in itself. Somebody told me that the screen pass that Elijah Moore dropped, by the way, hit him right in the numbers, I believe first or second drive of the game, was on Mike White. Was not. That's got to be a gimme. I probably would have went for some good yardage too. They got some guys out there blocking for him. But regardless, I think the story of them trying to upgrade the wide receiver room even just a little bit when it comes to the veterans was shown probably a month ago when they brought in Willie Snead and a few other guys for a visit. Willie Snead hasn't played in the NFL in, I believe, 2 or 3 years. So I guess that was more of a, just kind of a hope and a prayer type of thing when they worked him out. Obviously, they didn't sign him, so they didn't see a future for him with the team. But they bring in DeBose today. They sign him. And then a few weeks ago, they signed Deion Kane, who did some nice things in the UFL. But, they're looking for maybe a few guys that can push for that wide receiver 6 spot or, just push guys up the roster and compete. Competition's a good thing when it comes to this. And I kind of thought it was interesting today, and we haven't touched on it. It's not a huge thing, but 7th round pick, Caden Prather, cut. Didn't even make it to the final cut day, right? That's kind of something where hey, you invest a draft pick, although it's, about as late as it gets, still that's a wide receiver that you put a draft pick into, and he didn't show a whole lot. I know he's been battling injuries a little bit too, but to me, that was a little interesting of a decision. I guess we'll have to see where they go from it, but maybe Gabe Davis comes in and replaces that roster spot or something along the lines of that. So to me, I'm just Curtis Samuel's got to get healthy. I know he's starting to get there, but we have no idea what we're going to get from him. At this point, it's a huge question mark. Elijah Moore has got to have the best PR team in Buffalo that I've seen in a long time, because he is just
in the league, bro. History.
It's ridiculous. There's a reason he wasn't picked up until after the draft. I really hope he turns around. I think he brings an element if he were to reach his potential, but at this point, there's been nothing that shows, hey, he's going to take that next step because he's playing with Josh Allen. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But again, Gabe Davis, I think low risk, high reward buy. If you need him to play in a playoff game, that's when he plays his best football, right? So this is a guy that's either going to give you 2 targets, no catches, not a single yard, or he's going to give you 6 catches for 160 and 2 touchdowns. So there is a value to that type of player, and he's still around recovering from an injury. So we'll see what happens with him. Maybe he goes to the Steelers. Maybe he signs here. But again, I wouldn't mind him.
And we have to address this comment too. And John, I know you're a loyal viewer of our show, so I appreciate every time you do comment. And I know you said I'll whine if the special team sucks. I don't whine about special teams often. That is not my thing. I don't do that. I understand there's pros and cons to each player. I do have to address this though. Here's the thing, John. Tyrell Shavers and Gabe Davis are the same age. Tyrell Shavers has 1 catch for 69 yards and a touchdown in his career. Gabe Davis has over 180 for around 3,000, and you're talking about like 30 touchdowns around there. This is not an apples to apples comparison. Shavers is all based on potential, and maybe he has the ability to play well. But even if Shavers makes the Bills, he is not starring in any receiver role unless there's injuries, and it's a limited role at that. I like Shavers, but it's a limited role. He has to play special teams. Gabe Davis, as a practice squad guy, he doesn't need to play special teams. He doesn't. Because if he gets called up, it's because there's an injury or somebody out where he's just filling that role, and you still have your special teams guys. Now, if Gabe Davis is making the roster and you have Shavers and he's taking over for somebody, then somebody else will need to have the special teams role. And does that? That's a negative. That's a minus for Gabe Davis overall. But the acting like Shavers can catch better and that he plays better. If he plays better, he wouldn't have been a backup, not seeing much game action the last 2 years. So plays better? No. Catch better? Maybe. But I find it kind of odd that we're killing a guy that averaged 40 receptions a year for the Bills for over 680 yards and 7 touchdowns per. This strikes me as a Bills fan base that is bitter and has sour grapes because he didn't live up to their preconceived expectations that he doesn't have control of. Gabe Davis is not in control of your expectations. He's never sworn. I know he had the one sideline thing, but let's be real. In front of a camera, post game, on social media, Gabe Davis has never said anything shitty about Buffalo. He has never put bad words. He's been nothing but professional. He is engaged with fans. He's a good person. He has been good to some of the non-traditional media members here. And for all the hate that he gets, just because he didn't live up to Bills fans' expectations of a wide receiver 2, it is embarrassing. This is what players talk about when they talk about fans being bitter and sour and annoying. This is the bad side of fandom, because you're letting your personal feelings about a player on the field impact how you think about that player as a person. Gabe Davis was not Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs was a dick. That guy deserves hate. That guy, behind closed doors, was a shitty teammate and did shitty things. That was not Gabe Davis. And still injured his mom. That's his mom. I'm sure if I did something bad or somebody did something to me, my parents would comment on stuff. Let's not judge Gabe Davis based on something his mom says. Before Khalil Shakir broke out, people were complaining about his parents saying some things about the Bills during the preseason before the season he broke out. It's okay for parents to be emotional when their kids are trying to make millions of dollars in the NFL. You ever go to a high school football game or a high school hockey game? Check out what the parents are saying on the sidelines there. It's a lot worse. I'm tired of this irrational, bias, negativity. John, I love you, man. Overrated. The whole fan base thinks he sucks. How can you be overrated when everybody thinks you're horrible? You can't be you can't have fan expectations like you suck, but then be overrated. You have to be like people think you're good in order to be overrated. So no, not overrated. And I'm not trying to be a dick right now, John, because I do appreciate all of your comments and everything. It comes down to this. Gabe Davis is disliked for one reason and one reason only. He didn't become the star receiver all the fans thought he would. So whenever he has a drop, he became an easy target. And then now all Bills fans jump on him and they hate on him because that's what fan think does. It's groupthink. You all start thinking the same things. You start jumping on people and then you hate him and he becomes an easy target. The fact that Gabe Davis is even willing to come back to Buffalo and the Bills want Gabe Davis back potentially should be a bigger indicator of how they feel about him than what the fans feel about him. You should trust what Josh Allen wants. You should trust what Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott want. They're the ones that put together a winning culture, a winning organization. And guess what? Gabe Davis was at Josh Allen's wedding. Josh Allen didn't have the entire team there. Josh Allen didn't have every player he played football with throughout the years. He had his closest friends and buddies that he is still very close to. There's a very good chance Josh Allen might be facilitating this as well at the current moment. And Josh might be saying, you know what, man, if you can't find a role where you're wide receiver 3 somewhere across the league, come back for a year, play in the practice squad, get back healthy. We'll ease you in. If there's injuries, maybe you play 2-3 games. Maybe if there's long-term things, you can come back in as wide receiver 4, number 5. You get 15, 20 catches. And then know what? Next offseason, you get your next short contract. You go elsewhere. You become a wide receiver 4 somewhere else, and you finish the rest of your career. But like this talk, like, oh my God, how dare Gabe Davis be our wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5? Like, he might not have been wide receiver 2, but why are we talking like the guy can't be wide receiver 4 or 5? Like, he made $13 million last year. How did he go from making 13 to like not even being on a football field?
It's crazy.
It is crazy. You said a lot of great things there, Mike. I think the biggest thing what people need to remember is that we don't know what goes on in that locker room. None of us do.
John again. John, I love Tyrell Shavers. I'm sorry, Jake, but like I'm not going to let.
If Gabe takes a role,
I want Tyrell Shavers on the team ahead of Gabe Davis. I don't know why this is so hard. I keep saying practice squad. People then keep saying it's never going to happen on the practice squad. It is August 19th. More likely than not, if Gabe Davis signs with the Buffalo Bills, he will be on the practice squad. If he's not on the practice squad, it's because Elijah Moore or Curtis Samuel, one of them is not on the team. And if one of them is not on the team, it's because they either can't be healthy or because they suck at playing football. So it doesn't matter. I love Tyrell Shavers. Stop making it seem like I'm picking Davis over Shavers. I'm not. I'm sorry, Carson. I'm sorry, Jake. I'm just tired of it. It's annoying to me. Everybody makes it this stupid things. I love Tyrell Shavers. I've been on the Tyrell Shavers bandwagon since he was a rookie and he was going up against, what's his name? Justin
Shorter.
Justin Shorter.
Wow, that's a pull.
And when Justin Shorter was a rookie, I think I was still cover 1 at that point, and I was hyping up about how this Tyrell Shavers kid from San Diego State looks a lot better than our 5th round pick and should be given an opportunity over our 5th round pick. And I had people telling me I was crazy then because Justin Shorter looked like DK Metcalf, and he was going to be the next coming of Randy Moss. And you know what? That hasn't worked well at all because Justin Shorter has yet to have an NFL catch, and he's a backup tight end on the Raiders now. Couldn't even stay at receiver. So don't think I'm hating on Shavers. I'm not. But let's not act like Shavers is the next coming of like anything. Like he's probably not.
Bringing up Justin Shorter is a great way to wrap this conversation because I can tell you there are tweets on my timeline going at people that were Bills. Bills fans, you don't know how to judge wide receivers because that app was all over Justin Shorter as a potential superstar. And I watched him in college. I was a Penn State fan, watched him for 3 years. I could have told you day one it wasn't going to work out. Wasn't excited about the pick, everything else. Guys, so much of it has to come down with that's what I was going to get to. There's so much of it has to come down with chemistry in the room and with the quarterback, all stuff that the three of us or any fan is never going to be privy to, especially in that wide receiver room. And when it comes to Shavers, I don't like Davis is in here for the two vets. I would be more worried if I were Samuel or Moore in this regard right now. Like 100%. That's who he's here to put pressure on. Not the young guy who's going to have a huge special teams role and has been working his ass off for 2 years. Not really worried about Tyrell Shavers. Now, is this a point where it's like, hey, they're probably telling him like, hey, don't rest, don't like keep pushing, whatever. But this is to push the two vets who are expendable, in my opinion. Like that, it's as simple as that. And anybody who thinks Samuel and Moore should be locks on this team, like, I don't know what you're watching out there. So I don't know how you think these teams move, because the margins are thin. We're gonna cut a good player on cut day. We're gonna cut a good football player. I guarantee you that. A good NFL player, a decent NFL player, will be on another roster cut from the Bills on cut day, because the Bills are a great team. They brought a lot of competition into camp. We talked all summer about how we liked the depth better of this whole roster. Now, have there been some issues that have crept up into that may have maybe a little bit more concerning with that depth? Sure. And we'll get into that in a minute too. But a good player is going to get cut by the Bills on cut day, and people are going to be mad about it. And I think we just need to understand that's the point you're at when you're a team who is won the second most games over the 5-year span in the league. Like, good players are going to come and go that you don't think should. I'm welcome to Gabe Davis. If Gabe Davis brings the vibes up and keeps the vibes up, I'm here for it. That's basically what it comes down to. But let's get into the other main concern of this room and of this team, and it's the safety room. Now, we can talk a little bit about this preseason game Sunday. There's not a lot to take away from it. Like, we're not going to delve deeply into it. Like, first of all, as many of you may know, if you don't, I live in Chicago. Bears fans are treating it like it's their Super Bowl, and you shouldn't treat it any differently than a regular practice. Like, that's a team that I want to just speak from the Bears perspective here, because Sal Capaccio on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo after the game said, this is no excuse, but Buffalo looked like a tired team Sunday night. It traveled for 4 days, had the joint practice where it was very competitive, and they were really happy with what it looked like. Now, the Chicago Bears are a team who last year was it was a joke of a coaching job by them, and it has been completely flipped. Ben Johnson has brought in a completely different perspective, a deeply different attitude, everything else. That was a team that was working their ass off for 4 quarters straight. Like, that is a team that has something to prove. They said today in the interview with Kay Adams, DJ Moore, we don't think we've scored enough to keep our coach happy. Like, so that is let's think about where that team is in their build and what they're trying to do and how they're treating this preseason. And then think about where the Buffalo Bills are and just think about how that result could possibly end up that way. Now, let's talk about the main concern of this, because the safeties are the biggest thing coming out of this conversation. We saw Cole Bishop get some reps Sunday, and it was the linebacker and safety combination on Sunday was I was at the game, and I'm sitting end to end. I'm seeing the Bears go forward. So it's like a perfect film view of everything. And it was the first thing it was the first and only thing I could notice was just how piss poor the coverage was, and just they looked lost. They didn't look like they didn't know whose responsibility was what, everything else. There's a lot you could talk about. Andreessen, we could talk about Bishop, we could talk about Hamlin, we could talk about the other linebackers, but we're here to talk about the safeties. And because Sean McDermott today said, quote, we're still looking for the other guy across from T-Rap. That's as damning of a statement as you can get for the rest of the room. To me, Mike and Carson, I'll start with you, Carson. That sounds like directly to Cole Bishop. And to me, there's a lot of talk, like Justin Simmons' name has been going nuclear on this app since Sunday night. Like, even during the game, I was seeing Justin Simmons' tweets get popped up as it was going on. The second they bring in another safety, they're saying it's over for Cole Bishop. There's no other way around it. If the last week and a half, McDermott has been talking about Bishop, that he hasn't had enough reps, hasn't been enough time in the field. If you bring in another safety, where's that time coming for Cole Bishop? So for me, all of this is we have to give him every chance to take this job. Carson, is it is it gonna like, how do you feel? Do you feel good about the safety? Like, not good, but are you sharing as much concern about the development of Bishop right now, or do you still want to give it the couple weeks here and see if he can get the reps and see if they feel more comfortable with him, or are you ready to just blow it up and address this from outside the locker room and somebody from off the street?
Well, I'll start with this. Like, I think safety position is a dime a dozen, right? Like, it's a really replaceable position in the NFL. Like, I don't want to come across kind of in a dickhead comment like that, but it really is. Like, there's guys, like, you look at it, like Marcus May, Justin Simmons, Jordan Whitehead, Von Bell, Marcus Williams. Like, those are all guys that are still free agents. And, like, at one point in time, those were regarded as some of the best safeties in the NFL. Like, you can have a guy who's at the top of his position 1 year. Like, look at Jamal Adams, for example. When he was with the Jets, and even when he started with the Seahawks, like, I get the whole linebacker joke and everything, but before that started, like, he was viewed so highly, like probably top 10 universally safety in the league. And then look at two years later, he's cut. He's without a job. He's been, looking for many jobs here and there. So that's what I'm just saying. Like, I think it's a position that's certainly replaceable. As far as, I put out a tweet today with something that I heard a year ago. So, I mean, I take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. You go to Orchard Park, there's some people that you just run into, right, as a school district. So I heard that Justin Simmons, they weren't a huge fan of how he played in the run game. That was a major turnoff. And if you look at it, I think NFL teams around the league would probably genuinely agree with that statement. They liked Julian Blackmon. There's some issues with his shoulder at the time, and I believe his Achilles too, or ankle. And that was just not something that they were willing to take the gamble on. And then they chose Bishop. So, like, it's kind of a weird spot to be in. Again, like, it was a year since I heard that. I think it's a pretty reliable source that told me a year, maybe they take a gamble, even if they let's say they sign Justin Simmons, right? I don't know if that. I know Aaron Quinn from, I think, Cover One was talking about this. I don't know if he's an improvement. Like, he's a guy who really can't tackle anymore. He struggles in the run game, but yeah, I mean, he's a good ball hawk. Like, he could play center field for you and make a few plays here and there, but you're giving and taking in that situation. And that's something that the Bills had the luxury of with Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. Like, they were just stability through the back end. Like, you didn't have to worry about a single thing with those guys. And that's a great luxury to have. But as far as Cole Bishop's concerned, it's just weird with him. Like, I think the route that he got cooked on the other night, that's a really freaking hard situation and concept. That's what makes Ben Johnson so special. Switch release, you got a little bit of a stack in the formation. It's a diamond release as well on a slant. Like, he's put in a position to lose there. He's 4 or 5 yards off the ball. Leverage isn't there. Like, he could have played it better. I think it's part of that scheme as well. And also, when you don't have a ton of support over the middle and man, and you get beat to the inside, that's generally the one rule. You can't get beat inside. Gets beat inside, then, kind of gets cooked after that. It is what it is. Pair that with the pitch count that he was on, that he said in the post game, like, it's really been as bad as it possibly can get as far as Cole Bishop's concerned, let alone your coach is slightly calling you out in press conferences. That's not what you want to see out of your second round pick. I think he's a guy, if they don't have faith in him and they haven't seen, which it seems like they have, it's his job to win this job, and he hasn't done really a thing to give the coaching staff any of that mindset. I think that's a major tell. I think his time and his clock is really running short here, let alone the fact that he's been battling injuries. So I think they're going to be looking at guys that they can bring in, especially if there's certain guys that, let's say, on some other winning teams or a deep safety room that get cut around the league. I think there's going to be a guy that they definitely bring in. Like, they tried this with Lewis Sign last year, didn't ultimately work out, but I think there's going to be definite competition. I think that's a certain spot when McDermott said of a team need that they're looking at hard. And a guy I'd keep an eye on, although logistically, when it comes to money, I don't think makes a ton of sense, is Kyle Duggar. He's been playing second team reps with the Patriots. So if they can work something out cap-wise, which I doubt they will, but it's still, a name to keep an eye on. So again, it's a replaceable position. I'm not that worried about it. The scheme McDermott and Babbage have allows for a lot of flexibility and doesn't put a whole lot of pressure on them. So I think this is definitely something to keep an eye on. I don't know if it's super worrisome, but you want to have some good safety play. And if you're going to run it back with DeMar and Rapp, like, I don't know how much that pushes the needle. But we'll have to see. Cole Bishop's definitely an interesting guy to keep an eye on here in the last week of preseason and ultimately the weeks ahead.
Yeah, I find safety really fascinating right now. And to be honest, I don't know if it's as big of a deal as we're making it out to be at the current moment, or if it's something that will be okay. We saw the Bills defense with Damar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp at safety last year, and they still finished as the 11th ranked DVOA unit in the NFL, which means they were still in the top third of defenses in the league. They were top 10 in takeaways. And I think we would all say that the defensive line has gotten better from last year. Now with linebacker, you have Milano back fully healthy. In the secondary, like, you're pretty similar except for Trey White replacing Rasul Douglas. So on paper, they're healthier, they're a better team, which should help the backside a little bit more. Now, here's the concern. Damar Hamlin is not a starting caliber safety in the NFL, in my opinion. He's a backup. And I think Damar Hamlin is fine as being a backup. But he has this interesting story where he was thrust into action as a young player, obviously had the incident in Cincinnati, which brought him national attention. And because of that, he gets invited to a lot of things and he gets a spotlight a lot. And I think there's a portion of Bills fans that kind of hold that against him because they're tired of him getting all this attention based on things that have nothing to do with the play on the field. And they want him not to get all this attention because it's something that happened a couple years ago and they want it to be focused on football. And football-wise, he has been not really that great. There's reps that it looks like he's taken off during the preseason, missed tackle on the touchdown, was jogging on another touchdown in week 1, even if he had no chance of really making a play. But it's the perception that he's not putting a lot of effort in it. And I'll be real. I could be completely wrong. I don't think Damar Hamlin is putting all the effort in the preseason. A lot of veterans don't. They preserve themselves. And whether that's right or wrong, a lot of them just want to get through it healthy and put it all out there in the regular season. So is Damar acting like someone battling Cole Bishop for a role right now? I don't know. Now, the Cole Bishop situation, a completely unrelated one. He can't stay on the field. He missed all training camp last year, then trying to learn on the fly this year during the season. Then once again, another training camp where they put everything into action, and he's gone again. And then on top of it, Taylor Rapp is out. So what do you need in safety? You need your two safeties to build a rapport with each other. That's what Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer had. They were on the same page. They were both talented players, but when they were put together, it brought out the best of each other. And you have two safeties right now in Damar and Cole Bishop that are not even going to be on the field together for most of the season because they're competing for who it's going to be next to Taylor Rapp. And at the same time, you don't have Taylor Rapp out there. So they're not building continuity. They're not building familiarity. They're not building all of those things that they need communication-wise to have success in the regular season. So I am worried about how it's going to look early in the season because they don't have the reps together to really show that they have anything at this point in time. If they bring in another safety from the outside and it's a starting caliber player, that's basically saying we don't have faith in you right now, Cole Bishop. And that would be a tough sign for him. As a second-round pick, 2 years in, not starting, and then you bring in somebody else, it's hard to then say year 3, now it's your turn, Cole. You would need him to show something during the regular season to have that faith, or else you're going to look to possibly replace him at that point. So Cole Bishop, he better hope that doesn't happen. Now, for the Bills to get a safety at this point of the offseason, it's likely somebody that's getting cut. So you can have questions. If they're signing somebody that's getting cut, what's really the value there? Another team going into the season didn't think that person was good enough. You might not be getting an upgrade anyway. Like, it's possible. But then you hear Taron Johnson talk about how it takes 2 years for him to really feel fully confident in what the Bills do defensively. Are we supposed to believe that a random safety from another organization is going to come in and in 18 days be ready to start the season opener against Baltimore? That's probably not going to happen. Like, you don't have Lawyer Malloy 2003 or 4 vibes happen every single offseason. That's a rarity. And then on top of it, there's another part of me that's like, well, if the defensive line generates pressure, if the linebackers take care of the run game, and Christian Benford is an elite corner and Taron Johnson's an elite corner, you might not even see the safeties really make a tremendous impact either way. And so part of me is like they're getting exposed now because you have DeMar Hamlin and Cole Bishop playing on the field with Brandon Codrington at corner. You have rookies at defensive tackle. You have Joe Andreessen, an undrafted free agent, starting at linebacker against the Chicago Bears starters. Like, that defense was going to get smoked, like, no matter what on Sunday night. Like, I don't think fans are, like, connecting that. Like, you have Brandon Codrington at times going one-on-one against DJ Moore. Like, Codrington isn't a corner. He's technically a corner. He's a kick returner who has to label himself another position. Like, the Bills' defense looked awful because there was a bunch of people that are going to be either rotation players or not on the field for many snaps defensively. And we'll see how everything looks when it all comes together. I wish we had Poyer. I wish we had Hyde. Those were good old days. They were tremendous players. But the Bills don't need that level of production out of safety. They just need a good, steady, consistent approach. And like Carson said, a lot of these great safeties that we're talking about, they go from great to not even playing overnight. So the NFL clearly doesn't value safety the way the rest of us do, which means it's entirely possible you get Bishop some reps, get him some game action, that he really might be fine in a month. He is just coming off an injury. He has not many practices under his belt. But at the same time, McDermott has to have that sense of urgency and be like, Cole, I get it, you're coming off an injury, but we're playing a game in 19 days. And if you look like this against the Baltimore Ravens, we're going to allow 40 points. So get your shit together.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing I want to touch on mostly, and we you guys touched on it a little bit, but the connectivity between the safety and everything else in the NFL, like it's not a premium position. It's why a guy like a Malachi Starks last year dropped so far. Like, that's a guy who had immense talent, probably top 15 talent. It's not a premium position. The premium position that everybody invests all their high stuff into is defensive end and defensive line. And that is where the Bills, if the Bills defensive, I said it last year and I got burned. I thought they were going to be an elite unit last year. They revamped that unit tenfold. I mean, there's new faces all over it, and the biggest one being Joey Bosa. If that unit, specifically if Bosa is a superstar and everybody else along the line kind of does what they did last year, it's going to make everything easier for Cole Bishop, for Taylor Rapp, for Christian Benford, for Trey White, for Taron Johnson, and also having healthy Matt Milano, healthy Terrell Bernard all season long is going to help the safeties immensely. It's not the same room we're looking at as last year. It's not the same situation we're looking at with the defense last year. And I'm with you guys. I think that we're, as Bills fans, everybody is like I saw it today, like, who's going to be our next Poyer and Hyde? Bro, like, that was like an amazing accomplishment to have that tandem play as well and be the backbone of the defense. Name another team in the league right now that is led by their two safeties, is leading their way for an elite defense. It was masterful, the way the chemistry, the way they designed the scheme, everything else. But the way that they've invested has not been to support that in going forward. Like, they want to be a dominant team in the front seven. That's the path. That's where they are hoping to make their bones and get to the Super Bowl. So as much as we're concerned about the play, and I was, like I said, I was very concerned just from the little bit I could see in person, just because of and I think someone put it in the comments on Instagram that him and Hamlin, Bishop and Hamlin, yeah, shout out to Charlie A1K. He said Bishop and Hamlin look low energy. I don't think it's low energy as much as it's too much thinking, not enough reacting, specifically with Bishop. And I think McDermott has mentioned that, like, learning plays, relying more on instincts rather than kind of processing through things as he can be out there. There's one play that he misses. There's a catch over the middle that happens where you can just tell he's like thinking, should I pass this off? Should I not pass this off? And that split second is what killed him on the route. And there's another play, I think it's the first pass of the game. It's Hamlin and Andreessen. Andreessen split second and Hamlin split second. Don't know who's passing off to who. Hamlin's too late coming over. Andreessen's too late to realize that the guy has passed him, and the play happens. Like, it's a lot of a lot of scheme stuff where guys are not the safeties aren't reacting in time. I don't think it's low energy. I think they gotta play with more on instinct, and that's all Sean McDermott wants these guys to do is play free. Like learn the scheme and play free. That's been the whole mantra of this defense forever and ever. If you don't know that scheme, and it's a hard scheme to pick up on for guys, you're gonna have a hard time, especially with how much responsibility those safeties have, Carson.
Jake, yeah, to touch on what you said, like here's my issue if they bring somebody in from outside that maybe gets cut, or if it's a free agent or a trade, but I find that unlikely. The amount of reps that they're going to bring in, the amount of reps that the guy they'll bring in has missed is incredible. Safety is all about communication, and you got to know your coverage and your technique. So the issue that I'd have is there's a ton of safety rotation, more safety rotation really than ever in the NFL, whether that's 3, you go out cover 2, you name it, right? You have to be able to communicate with, first of all, the green dot, which is your middle linebacker, and then the other safety on the rotation. You have to have your timing down with that, and to pair that with knowing the playbook and also the chemistry with everybody else. So right now, they're kind of between a rock and a hard place. Like, again, it's a replaceable position. It's not a bad thing to have. But if you're going to bring somebody in, the amount of time that they're going to miss is going to be tough. And you're going to see plays where Colston Loveland will split you right down the middle on Tampa 2. The safety will be late getting there. Andreessen didn't get enough depth. That's his whole job in Tampa 2. You're the middle of the field in that situation. And you're going to be gashed right up the middle. So, like, it's situations like that kind of show you that. And then you got Cole Bishop coming off an injury. He gets beat in a cover 1 situation. That's really a tough one to guard in the formation, the play call that was called for Chicago. I think Cole Bishop still has plenty of potential. Like you guys brought it up. Like in a month, like who knows? Maybe he does come out and he's playing really good football. I know he's a good tackler. We've seen that. You can't doubt that with him. It's the things after that, whether it's pass coverage or reading plays fast enough. Like it's almost like he's overthinking a little bit. And that can happen when, you kind of feel the pressure, you feel the heat, you're a second-round pick, you're supposed to be taking that next step. And when you're kind of failing to do so, along with failing to stay healthy, you're going to be a second behind. So to me, it's if they get somebody through reps and communication and chemistry is going to be really, really important because they missed a ton of time through training camp, OTAs, you name it. And for them to have trust in somebody week 1 to just go out there immediately and take somebody's job, like I don't know if that's the smartest way to go about it. Again, it's replaceable, so it could happen, but I don't know. Like they're in a tough spot. It's something that you probably look at in the offseason, but they've been year after year trying to give the defensive line and edge rushers the most amount of resources possible. And they did that this year with drafting Sanders, Deion Walker, and then going after Bosa, Michael Hoyt, and Ogunjobi. So we'll have to see. But again, safety, it's down on the position rankings for this defense. So we'll have to see, but hopefully they can figure it out.
And like, what do fans want the Bills to do? Like, if the Bills would have drafted Malachi Starks, you know what the reaction of most uninformed Bills fans that don't follow college football, they would have been pissed that they drafted a safety in the 1st or 2nd round. So it's like they can't win. All offseason, everybody knew they were drafting a defensive end and a defensive tackle, likely in the first 3 rounds, and that corner was going to be probably another high priority. Guess what they do? They go corner, D-tackle, D-end, D-tackle. Everybody wanted it after the Chiefs lost because they couldn't generate pressure, and then they had to replace Elam because Elam provided nothing, and obviously Rasul Douglas didn't step up last year. So they did everything that they were struggling at. They added things. And then when they have a new area of concern, fans are like, well, why didn't you anticipate that? Well, because they had a 2nd-round pick on a safety just a year before that they have faith in, and they're trying to develop and turn into that guy. And then he gets hurt in training camp again, and what are you supposed to do? Like, it is what it is. It's a tough thing. It's a setback, and it's going to hold them back. What are the Bills going to do next year with Maxwell Harrison? If Harrison doesn't return until week 9, and then he doesn't practice much, and he just starts playing a few reps late in the playoffs and late regular season, should the Bills next year just totally say, okay, Maxwell Harrison, you're a backup going into the season? No, they're probably going to give him a chance at starting because they have a 1st-round pick invested in him. And unfortunately, like in the NFL, sometimes you have to suck it up and accept things because if you have a 1st-round pick or a 2nd-round pick, they're too premium of assets to just give up on those players after one disappointing season or sometimes 2 disappointing seasons. And right now at safety, we don't know what Cole Bishop is. And that's the sucky part of it, is he hasn't been on the field enough to give us any indication of what he is. The Bills drafted him for a reason, and they're going to have to just trust their gut with it. Now, I think it puts McDermott in a really tough place. I think he's a guy that likes to have more sense of security. So he's definitely not happy with where the situation is. I guarantee you he wishes he had more a sense of feeling about it. But let's remember, Terrell Bernard, before his second year in the league, he was injured almost the entire preseason. He didn't play at all. And Bills fans were freaking out about how Terrell Bernard might be the starting linebacker. And it was freak out season in Buffalo. And then Terrell Bernard, oh my God, this guy can play. He's actually pretty good. How would the Bills have known that? It's not like he didn't practice the entire year before. I mean, it's like we see games. They see practice. They had reasons to think what Cole Bishop did in practice when he returned last year was enough to warrant being the starter. But they kept Damar Hamlin because they thought just enough uncertainty of what if he doesn't do it or what if he gets hurt. So Bills fans act like, oh, the safety room is bad, and maybe it is. But they have faith that Cole Bishop can get the job done. DeMar right now is strictly a backup unless Cole Bishop shits himself. Now, we'll see. It could happen. But what are the odds that they just bring somebody in and take over? I don't want to say it's super high. Fans are get a stud. I don't think they're getting a stud at safety. If anything, they're probably getting somebody comparable to Damar Hamlin and hoping that they provide a little bit more consistency.
Agreed.
But we'll see. And then I liked what Steve had here. I wish they'd do away with the preseason games and televised joint practices. They'll never televise joint practices just because they're actually doing things in practice that carry into the regular season, unlike the preseason games, which they literally don't do anything that's relevant. But the controlled practice is what the Bills value more. That's when Josh Allen's getting reps. That's when all the starters are getting reps against the Bears starters. That is the competitive atmosphere. That's the thing that you should want to attend. And I think that's what fans have to start realizing more. These preseason games are meaningless outside of people on the roster bubble or young players getting their first action in the NFL to get that game day experience and know what the preparation and all that is involved. Outside of that, practice is what matters. That's what coaches are evaluating you on. That's what they're truly seeing. The preseason roster bubble, guys. That's all the preseason is about right now. And to get a few reps before maybe the season starts. But yeah, it's going to be interesting how it all goes down. And then you brought up one other good point about defensive line and their offseason strategy, how they did everything. The Bills didn't draft every defensive lineman because they suddenly think TJ Sanders is going to be a stud at D tackle this year. They didn't draft Landon Jackson because they think he's going to get 10 sacks or Deion Walker because he's going to be a disruptor. They doubled down on the defensive line in free agency in the draft because they think Michael Hoyt is their number 3 defensive end right now. They think Bosa is maybe their top defensive end or at least their second best defensive end. They think that possibly Ojanobi, we'll see what happens, could have an impact on their defense. They doubled down in the draft because they're trying to not just focus on the short term. They're trying to focus on the long term. TJ Sanders, if he comes in right away and performs great as a rookie, awesome. But they don't draft TJ Sanders because they think he's going to be a star as a rookie. They're hoping by the end of the season he can start contributing in a rotation. They're hoping that guys like Deion Walker, that Landon Jackson can develop. And then when guys like Bosa are no longer on the roster, when guys like Hoyt are no longer on the roster in a couple of years, that they can then take the reins and step up and then fill in on that. So you want production, but you're not expecting all of it at that level. And I think my problem with how a lot of Bills fans are thinking right now about this team is they look at how the young rookies did against Chicago Bears starters, and they're like, oh my God, they look horrible. What are we going to do? What you're going to do is you're going to play a lot of Ed Oliver. You're going to play a lot of Daquan Jones. You're going to play a lot of Greg Rousseau. And you're going to play a lot of Joey Bosa. And then when you need them to get some rest, you're going to put Michael Hoyt and A.J. Epineza. And then at D tackle, you're going to have T.J. Sanders in there. You're going to have moments where Deion Walker is in there. But you're not going to have them in there 50% of the game or 40% of the game. They're going to get their reps, but they're going to be fresh. And when they're fresh, going up against other players on other teams that might not be as fresh, or going up against other backups or rotational pieces, then they will have more opportunities to have flash plays and to shine. But when those guys are going up against the Chicago Bears starters that are perfectly healthy, ready to go, and they have never faced anything like that in their career, they're going to look a little underwhelming at times. And it's not like the Bills players that are in this preseason game were top 10 picks. We're talking about like TJ Sanders, mid-second round, Landon Jackson, third round, Deion Walker, fourth round. Let's give them a little bit of time. You can be in a Super Bowl window and have high expectations while also being realistic about your young developing talent and not just call them Boogie Basham after one bad preseason game. I'm not saying anybody did that, but like fan base needs to breathe sometimes. We lost 38-0 in a meaningless game to a team that missed the playoffs last year, that we lost 33-7 to in a preseason game to them last year. I do have one interesting little tidbit, though. 2 preseasons ago, the Denver Broncos beat the LA Rams 41-0. That was the largest preseason margin of victory since 1997 when the Indianapolis Colts, I think it was either the Colts, I think the Seahawks beat the Colts 45-3. Had the Bears scored a touchdown with under 2 minutes left rather than kneel the damn ball, we could have seen preseason history for the largest margin of victory in over like 30 years. But they had to take that away. Like at that point in time, I just wanted to see history. And the Bears robbed me of that. So I will forever despise Ben Johnson. That's their head coach's name. I'm going to forever despise Ben Johnson going forward for that. You're muted, Jake.
Fair and just. That's what I said. That's fair and just from you, Mike. I think that's completely fair. Do you have any other thoughts about that debacle in Chicago? I spent $35 on those tickets, and that's the biggest waste of money I've ever spent in my life. So that shout out to the Buffalo Bills second stringers for that. Carson, you got anything else from that game?
I mean, well, rip to the Mike White dream, man. Like it's not even really on him, man. Like this is just something that people look at. Like the offense just didn't move under him. Like it didn't really move under Mitch either. Let's be honest with ourselves. But the offense at least moved a little bit better. Like Mitch has got the tiebreaker if we're looking at what the Bills cards, what cards they've shown us. So I don't know. Like me and AJ, I think you too, Jake. Like we're Mike White guys. Bundt, I know you don't really care about backup quarterbacks. You think they're all terrible. Whatever. You're a hater.
I just want to be right when I talk.
It's okay. And I have a personal love for Mike White. It is what it is. But I think, that job is Mitch's at this point to lose. I'd be highly surprised if it's not Mitch's. And as far as the wide receivers go, like Christian Wilkerson, I think he's an underrated guy. Like I don't think enough people are talking about him. It's not going to matter because he's not going to make the team. But he could be a practice squad guy. He's played a little bit with New England in the past in regular season play. And really, I mean, that was kind of about it. Brad Robbins, I guess, is my only other one. Like, a lot of people were hating on this dude. Bengals fans consider him like Hitler. I think this dude has been lights out the whole. There was good reports coming out of camp. He's been lights out these past 2 preseason games. This last game, he got tons of work in. Didn't botch one at all. Like I was expecting Matt Hawk 2.0, and we haven't got that. Like he's been lights out. Hopefully, he can continue that. There is no guarantee that he wins the job against nobody, right? But like I think it's his job to lose as it's shown on the depth chart. So I think he's got this job locked up, and it's nice to see him contributing. And it's been so far so good with holding. So good stuff for him.
Not legit. That's a legitimate like upside because the app was like people, Bengals fans, everything else. When he got signed on as the only punter, was like, oh man, good luck, Bills fans. Like, this is going to be a disaster. And I was just I've been waiting for a disaster class, and it hasn't happened. We got to shout out Reed Ferguson though because he doesn't get the ball. He gets the ball right to our guy Brad in the spot it needs to be launching those punts. So those two were in lockstep. They crushed it on Sunday. Anybody else, it was a long, rough night to be watching the Buffalo Bills in person for sure, and just on TV anywhere. Even for the announcers, like the announcers were getting bored. They're just what a mess of a. It's hilarious that ended up being the standalone national TV preseason game that the NFL pulled out too. Do you have any thoughts on anything else on the game in Chicago, Mike, or you pretty much just ready to move on from it?
Puncher, but my final takeaway and lesson is this: there's a reason why we're fans, and the Bills have a front office that scouts these players and watches thousands of football players throughout the season. Fans look at some numbers about Brad Robbins and that he stinks, and the Bills are like, dude has a great leg, and he's going to be an improvement for us over what we have. We don't know what teams are doing. We don't know what they're planning on most plays. You can look at all the film you want. Half of us can't even diagnose what the right assignments are for certain players in certain plays. Carson, you can. You played quarterback in high school. I'll admit you know way more than what the average fan or myself knows when it comes to individual plays and everything. But like even punting, for example, when Matt Araiza first came to the league, you started hearing stuff like, well, a lot of teams don't like him because he outkicks the coverage. Well, fans would always say, well, that's probably great. You're kicking it 55 yards downfield. An NFL team is like, that's too far for our kickoff coverage. You're going to allow big returns, and that's a bad thing. And then you see Matt Araiza last year in Kansas City really didn't do that great. He had a great punting average, but did not do a lot of the other things that you needed out of a punter. So then you get Robbins from Cincinnati, who doesn't look great in the stats or anything. But what if Cincinnati's telling him, we'd rather not have returns, get hang time, kick it shorter. Like, we'd rather give up a 38-yard net than risk giving up a return. There's all these hidden things. Teams know about what other teams are doing. Teams know what they can break down what they're trying to do with certain players. And too often, us as fans try to look at basic stats and say, this guy is good, this guy is bad. And it's just it's an oversimplification of the sport of football. And it's a big reason why Josh Allen, coming out of college, everybody thought the kid sucked. Because they look at the stats, they look at the completion percentage, they look at the lack of yards and the touchdown to interception ratio. And they're like, this guy can't even get done at Wyoming. How is he going to make it done in the NFL? Well, guess what? He's 6'5". He's a tank with one of the strongest arms. And they thought they could develop him and turn him into something, and they were right. But at the same time, Anthony Richardson had almost all those same skills, and in the wrong situation or the wrong mental framework, he's turning into a bust before our eyes. We have to understand that when we evaluate players, we say things about players, we don't know about everything that's going into the situation. I know this isn't exclusively about the Bills, but like I'll tie it into like Gabe Davis and everything. We don't know what their plans are. Right now, preseason camp, they're working on a variety of different things. I am not going to be overly worried about this team until we're a couple weeks into the regular season and they're 0-2 or 1-3. That's when I'll be concerned. I think this Bills team is perfectly fine right now. I don't think the preseason losses mean anything. I'm not worried if they add Gabe Davis. I'm not worried about who the punter is. I'm not worried about Tyler Bass's health and if Ray Davis has to kick a field goal. Whatever. Like, this team is like entering a prime Super Bowl window. Mm-hmm. I'm just ready to watch some football, see this Bills team kill it, and have a fun ride. And any Bills fans that are in this pessimistic, weird environment, just calm the hell down and have some fun. Enjoy the ride.
Bundt, you ever think, like, in your scouting department, and I've thrown with some guys who are like fringe NFL, CFL guys, it's still really impressive. You ever think, like, what scouting departments saw in, like, Tim Boyle in college? Like, when he threw one touchdown pass his whole college career and threw 13 picks.
Like Matt Castle at USC. Like,
right.
Like, I'll be real. I think some scouts are like, oh, this is gonna make me look really good. Like, this guy hasn't done anything, and like I see something in him, and like if he makes it, like I'll look like I really know what I'm talking about. But like let's be real. Like, there's good and bad to like scouting. The good is like you can really see things that other people can't see. The bad is you might be biased because you might fall in love with a prospect.
For sure.
That the numbers might tell you not to. And now that you have analytics and metrics involved, that's good and bad too, because you might discover hidden gems, but you might overlook a guy that you shouldn't just because the numbers aren't that good. Like, I think back to that Josh Allen class the entire time. If you would have seen Josh Allen in 1975, he's the number one pick in the NFL draft. 6'5", 240, can run, massive arm. But you know what would have happened? They would have spent 5 years trying to make him a pocket passer, and they would have told him, don't leave the pocket. And
I don't even think you have to go back that far. What year did DeMarcus Russell get drafted?
So it's tough. But in 2017, they look at it and they say, well, he's too much of a risk. This defies numbers. Nothing about he's playing at Wyoming with inferior talent going up against better schools. And the same thing, the metrics are well, Baker Mayfield is so good at Oklahoma. He's bound to make it in the NFL. But then you're okay, he's going to be successful because these metrics all say he's going to be successful. But at the number one pick, are you trying to take someone safe with a ceiling here? Or do you want to take somebody with a risk who has a ceiling here? And the Browns' biggest mistake was they took a guy that was probably a late first round, early second round talent, and they took him first overall just because they thought he was the safest pick. Well, the Bills, and this is why I always say Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott deserve credit for this. They took the biggest risk in the NFL draft, drafting Josh Allen. And at the time, they were mocked, they were insulted, they were made fun of. Parodies, satire, all that stuff. And they had a development plan. Everybody said it was going to take 3 to 4 years for this guy to even be halfway decent. And they turned him into a playoff team in 2 years. And in year 3, they're winning the division and the dude's throwing for 38 touchdowns. I'm still a big believer. That was when I knew the Bills coaching staff was next level. They were good when they ended the drought. Next level when they took Josh Allen to that point. And that's my biggest frustration because they can't get over that next challenge, that next level that they have to get to. And people just want to give all the credit to Josh without realizing that Josh would never have become who he is without the proper development and guidance of the coaching staff. I'll be 100% real. If Josh Allen was drafted by the Cleveland Browns or the New York Jets, there is a good chance that Josh Allen wouldn't be in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm.
He got to where he is now because he got drafted by the right people who had the right plan for him. And those people, unfortunately, get almost zero credit for developing him when after 1 year, let's be real, he was still getting mocked relentlessly after his rookie season. He had a 10 to 12 touchdown to interception ratio. Even year 2, he was still a bottom half quarterback. People act like it happened overnight. It did not, but I don't want to go. I'm already talking too much. I go in circles. So, end of the day, Tampa Bay, Saturday. Can't wait. It's going to be fun watching all 3 future Buffalo Bills on the field that day. And it should be another exciting Shane Buechele classic.
Yeah, you got me locked in. I'm ready to roll for it. I can't wait for football season today because we're still in. Remember, guys. Preseason football, we're not worried about these results. If this thing, we can start really freaking out after week 1, maybe. But even if they lose 45-0 week 1, I'm not going to be panicking. You ain't gonna find me freaking out if that happens, regardless. So we just gotta wade through this fan base, guys. We got to get through all this together. All right. Bills fans, it's a marathon. Hopefully we're doing this for 6 more months, 5.5. So let's not waste all the energy getting angry about Gabe Davis today or Cole Bishop tomorrow. Let's pace it out. Let's see how it goes. Any last thoughts, Carson, Mike, before we go?
I mean, hey, Hard Knocks again, 33 minutes away from releasing.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for them to – I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, the quarterback 2 positions basically signed, sealed, and delivered to Money Mitch. So, I don't know. They're going to have to come up with some cool storyline. I'm sure we'll see something from a joint practice, but fired up for tonight. Tampa Bay Saturday. Next Tuesday, I probably will not be able to make the pod because whatever happened tonight. But I'm looking forward to it. Season's right around the corner. How can we not be excited? We just had a full text message conversation today at 1:00. I mean, we're so back. That had me fired up today. It's a great time, greatest time of the year.
I'm just sad I didn't make the last episode. They started with Andreessen, and I told you guys that they filmed me talking.
I sat up in my chair. I was like, he's got to be there somewhere.
And then they cut me from it. So it's a shame. I got to be honest. I spent a lot of long nights crying last week, but I'm over it. And I think it impacted the Bills' play on the field. I think they were hoping for it too. So
I think so.
Lamar picks the Gatorade bottle up this week too. So that would be
you got to be careful. It can't be tweeting.
Carson, that was no. Hey, listen, Carson, that was one of the bravest things I've seen you do since knowing you on the internet. And
people agreed too. They
right.
loved it.
It was the first thought I had when I saw the scene. Like, so, hey, some people grew up acting right. That's all I saw from your response. And some people didn't. That is what it is. But all right, guys, we paid the bills. This has been a wonderful time here with you all. Thank you to our sponsor, Picasso'sPizza.net. Get your Picasso Pizza anywhere nationwide and locally in Western New York. Our friend Mike Bundt will be, I believe, with Do Champions after Hard Knocks is over, going live, doing a recap show. So check it out on YouTube over there with them, teaming up with them for this Hard Knocks reviews. And we'll be back next week for some more, hopefully not a 41-0 loss in a preseason game. But hey, it'd be honestly, I'd have a lot of fun to see if the Bills got blown out 2 weeks in a row in the preseason. It'd be a lot of fun for this podcast and for the timeline. So I'm kind of here for the chaos in the preseason. Now, if it happens week 1, I said it would be fun. I don't know if it would be as fun week 1, but I'll take another week of it if it has to happen. We'll see what happens. Whatever. But all right, guys. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Carson. Go Bills.